When a waitress gave meals to a beggar, she never expected his bizarre billionaire secret. In the heart of downtown, where the neon lights flickered as if they had minds of their own, a waitress named Lucy fought through the late-night rush. She wore her heart on her sleeve and her apron. A perfect storm of grease-stained tables and a half-cooked city buzzed around her like angry hornets. On that fateful night, she noticed a man disheveled, wild-haired, and perched on the curb. Clutching a cardboard cup, his eyes gleamed with an unsettling mix of hunger and mystery. He was just a beggar, or so she thought. But this wasn't just any meal she was about to share. As she slipped him a steaming plate of leftover pie, she felt a shiver run down her spine. It wasn't the Arctic chill of December that sent ice through her veins, but a raw, unexplained energy that hung in the air. The crowd around them buzzed, laughter twinkling beneath the neon haze. Blissfully unaware of the curtain slowly lifting on a drama more bizarre than any late-night special. She served him with a simple smile, but her gut twisted. What could be under that ragged coat? A few moments later, the silence was deafening. The world seemed to blur. The laughter, the clinking of glasses. The beggar lifted his head, revealing a pair of piercing blue eyes that seemed to suck in the light. "You have a good heart," he rasped, voice like parchment, sending chills racing through Lucy. Another waitress leaned over, eyebrows arched, whispering, "What a weirdo." But Lucy couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more, something hidden behind his tattered exterior that pulsed with energy. Then it happened. A cacophony erupted, a crash of glass shattered by a distant car slammed into a post. The beggar flinched, his eyes darting toward the chaos with skillful precision, as if he were a hawk honing in on its prey. In that moment, Lucy saw it. A flicker of something gold glinting from the tattered pocket of his clothes. A necklace? A watch? No, it was something more grand. Her pulse quickened. Who was this man? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Lucy took a breath, her heart hammering. The beggar lowered his voice, an urgent whisper that seemed to echo in the alley's corners. "I am not who you think," he murmured. "You've stumbled upon something that could change everything." Her chest tightened. What did that mean? The air thickened. The laughter faded into whispers, and more eyes turned towards them, faces contorted with suspicions and morbid intrigue. "What do you mean?" Lucy whispered, her world spinning. And just as he was about to reveal his secret, a shadow loomed over them. The alley darkened, cutting off the flickering lights, as a figure emerged from the fog, tall, foreboding, and, unmistakably, in a well-tailored suit. Lucy's mind raced. Who was this, and what did they want? As the figure stepped closer, a new tension crackled in the air. And in that moment, as the beggar's mouth opened with something that could very well shatter their reality, Lucy felt the weight of hidden stories crashing down. What was the bizarre truth behind this beggar? And what dark secrets awaited her in the twisted streets of the city? The figure loomed larger, his presence commanding the space like a thundercloud, ready to unleash a storm. Lucy could feel the crowd around them shrink back, whispers trailing behind as people sensed the impending spectacle. The beggar's mouth moved, but the words were lost amid the growing tension. "Stay away from him." The newcomer's voice sliced through the air, smooth yet carry a dangerous edge. His eyes were fixed on the beggar, as if the man were a crime scene he needed to contain. "You don't know what you're meddling with, girl." Lucy felt a flutter of fear, not just at the threat in his voice, but the sudden realization that this encounter was no accident. Was she truly about to uncover something far darker than her naive act of kindness? The beggar's gaze hardened, blue eyes narrowing. "You think you own these streets, Paul?" He spat back, his voice now full of defiance. "You don't scare me." Paul stepped closer, His suit stark against the alley's shadows, he was a predator, and the beggar, with his wild hair and rags, was the prey. Lucy's heart raced. She needed to act. "Wait!" she called out, trying to regain control of the chaos that simmered like a pot about to boil over. "What's going on?" But neither man acknowledged her. The tension crackled like electricity, filling the alley with a palpable dread. Paul didn't break eye contact, the frost in his demeanor revealing a backstory filled with rivalry and perhaps deep-seated hatred. Lucy could feel it, her skin prickled with fear. "You don't know who he really is," Paul said, the words dripping with contempt. "He's playing a game far above your head. The money," he motioned dismissively to the beggar, "is a distraction. You think that giving him scraps makes you a hero?" Lucy's heart sank. She stole a glance at the beggar, who suddenly looked less like a ragged figure and more like a coiled spring ready to explode. What game was he playing? And what did Paul mean? "Enough games," the beggar said, his voice low and steady. "If you want your secrets to stay buried, get out of my way. I want to be silenced." Silenced? The word echoed in Lucy's head. She felt a lump forming in her throat as she pieced it all together. This wasn't just an encounter about charity, it was a clash of two worlds. Paul's lip curled into a contemptuous smile, revealing teeth that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. It was a smile that held promises of violence and ruin. "You think you know what's at stake?" he drawled mockingly. "No one crosses me and lives to tell the tale." With that, Lucy felt a crushing sensation in her chest. She was utterly caught in the middle of something unfathomable. Her heart raced. Should she help the beggar? Or was he the one who needed to be stopped? The choice before her twisted like a knife, and the darkness around them thickened as the other diners now stared wide-eyed. Their faces pale with a mix of fear and curiosity. An unsettling silence enveloped the alley as Lucy realized, in that split-second moment, everything was about to change. "You don't have to do this," she pleaded, finding her voice. "Just let him go." But Paul chuckled, a sound that sent chills racing through her body. "Oh, sweet girl, you have no idea what you're asking." As tension peaked, the beggar's hand slipped into his pocket, and Lucy's breath caught. She knew it, the secrets locked inside that wrinkled fabric held the power to alter their fates. Would he pull out salvation or destruction? Just then, the beggar's lips curled into a cryptic smile. "You're all in for a surprise," and just like that, the lights flickered above them, plunging the scene into darkness, and the air felt electric with unspoken truths waiting on the brink of revelation. What would emerge from the shadows when the light returned? Lucy's heart pounded as she prepared for an answer that might force her to choose sides in a dangerous game. The darkness cocooned them, thick and oppressive. Lucy stood frozen, her heart hammering in her chest. The silence felt like a tangible presence, crawling along her skin. She prepared for chaos, a scream, a fight. But instead, all she heard was the rush of her breath mingling with the air of tension. Then, the lights flickered back on, revealing a scene that felt almost surreal. Paul had leaped back, eyes wide, as if he'd just seen a ghost. The beggar no longer seemed like a mere man. Shadows danced across his face, illuminating the edges of a smile that held secrets beyond her comprehension. "Surprise," he called out, his voice clear and commanding. The crowd looked on, bewildered, their murmurs rising like an echo from a distant cavern. "What the hell are you talking about?" Paul demanded, trying to regain the smirk but failing as discomfort overtook him. "Let us just say, the game has changed," the beggar said, and the air around Lucy crackled again, this time with a sense of twisted anticipation. Lucy took a step closer, drawn in, her instincts screaming at her to retreat. She looked at Paul, whose demeanor darkened, transforming his previously cool confidence into something frantic. "This isn't about some street gamble, Paul," the beggar continued, pulling a folded piece of paper from his pocket. "This is about power, and the moves we make to keep it. What do you think you're doing?" Paul's voice trembled now, and for the first time he seemed truly intimidated. "You can't just throw those names around and expect to walk away." "Why not?" the beggar challenged, his blue eyes glinting as if shining with steel. You underestimated me. You thought I needed your scraps. Instead, I've been the one holding the cards all along. Lucy's mind spun, the threads of words weaving an impossible tapestry. What did this mean? Who was this beggar really? She wanted to scream questions, but all that came out was a hushed whisper. What cards? The beggar glanced at her, his expression softening for just a heartbeat. Cards tied to secrets of wealth and betrayal. The kind you can destroy or unlock a future. Choose wisely, Lucy. Your fate is now intertwined with the choices we make here. Paul boomed laughter that echoed through the alley, though it sounded hollow. You're a madman. No one will buy into your delusions. Maybe, the beggar replied, unfazed. He opened the paper, revealing a name that drew Lucy in. A name she knew all too well, and one that sent a shiver down her spine. But what if I told you this name could change everything? For both of us? Before Paul could respond, sirens blared in the distance, slicing through their confrontation like a knife. Instincts kicked in. Lucy felt her pulse race. Run, the beggar urged, his voice snapping her back to reality. I can't protect you here. As panic settled in, the crowd started to scatter, but Lucy couldn't move. The weight of the moment hung around her like fog. She looked at the beggar and then at Paul, who was visibly unraveling. What did she have to lose now? Lucy, the beggar shouted, his eyes wild but resolute. If you want to find out the truth, you have to trust me. Time is running out. As sirens got closer, the alley vibrated with a growing desperation, and Lucy understood she had to make a choice. Would she flee into the streets filled with confusion, or would she stand her ground and face whatever awaited her? Was she brave enough to step into the shadows with the stranger, or were those shadows the very thing she needed to fear? Choose, the beggar yelled, and his voice echoed in her mind as if wrapped around her soul. The sound of footsteps rushed forward, but through that chaos, a decision loomed like the darkness they had just escaped. What would Lucy do? The answer was about to change everything. Lucy felt her heart pound against her ribcage like a trapped bird. The urgency in the beggar's voice cut through the chaos swirling around her. She stood at a crossroads, her instincts wrestling within her. Every second felt stretched, like time itself was holding its breath, waiting for her to act. Lucy, the beggar cried out again, a mix of desperation and determination in his tone. The sirens were nearing, sending chills down her spine. She needed to decide now. Trust you? She finally managed, her voice barely audible over the din. You're just some street dweller with wild stories. But as she glanced at Paul, who was increasingly frantic, something changed in her. The gleam in the beggar's eyes was unyielding. There was danger here, yes, but there was also a promise, a flicker of possibility. Time is running out, he shouted, his demeanor shifting as the screeching alarms grew more pronounced. Around them, the crowd surged, a wave of fear screwing up every face as they pushed toward the safety of the street. Lucy bit her lip, torn. What if stepping toward him meant surrender? Or maybe, just maybe, it was the only way to take control of her fate. With shaking legs, she hesitated no longer. Okay, she yelled, her voice breaking through the noise. I'll trust you. The beggar's mouth twitched into a smile, one that promised secrets yet to unfold. Without waiting for her to change her mind, he grabbed her wrist firmly and pulled her into the darkness. The alley loomed like a tunnel to another world, a world built on whispered tensions and hidden truths. Lucy's pulse quickened as they dashed down the alley, weaving through shadows as the lights flickered sporadically overhead. The sirens wailed on, echoing off the damp walls like a hunt closing in. Where are we going? She gasped, breathless from the pace. To safety, he replied, glancing over his shoulder. The beggar's features were sharp against the fading light. But I need to show you something first. They turned a corner, and her breath caught in her throat. A small door concealed in brick greeted them, barely visible. Here, he urged, pushing it open just as the sirens reached a deafening crescendo. They slipped inside, and the door shut with a resounding thud behind them. The room was cluttered, boxes stacked to the ceiling, wires hanging loose, and an old computer blinking on a rickety table. "What is this place?" Lucy asked, feeling a mix of fear and curiosity. "It's where everything begins," the beggar replied, urgency lacing his tone. "Everything we need to take control of our lives. But I need you to see the truth for what it is." He moved to the computer and typed furiously, pulling up images and names, each connection glistening like poison on the screen. Lucy leaned closer, her heart dropping. Each name felt familiar, citizens of her world intertwined in a web of deception and greed. "Those are the players we cannot ignore," he explained, the intensity in his eyes electrifying. "They think they're safe, but they're not. And you play a part in this whether you want to or not." "What are you saying?" she whispered, panic squeezing her throat. "I'm saying," he said, his voice low and serious, "that the game is bigger than just us. And it all ties back to you." The implications of his words fully sank in as her mind raced. She thought of her past, the snippets she had buried deep, her family's struggles, the sacrifices she never wanted to acknowledge. "What do you mean I tie into this?" "Because the truth will lead us to power." "But are you ready for what that could mean?" Lucy's breath hitched. Could she really face whatever darkness was ahead? The gravity of her reality pressed in on her. But in that moment, a small ember of hope flickered. "Lucy, you need to understand that once we step into this world, there's no going back," he warned, his voice a whisper now, laden with gravity. "The choice has repercussions beyond anything you've ever imagined." Before she could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed from outside. They were coming. With her heart racing and the stakes higher than ever, she faced him, a wild mixture of fear and determination swirling inside her. Could she step into a game that held her fate? The ground beneath her seemed to shift, leaving her standing on the edge of an abyss. Would she truly embrace the challenge ahead? The door rattled, and her answer was racing toward her. What would be their next move? Discovering the truth could either shatter her world or make her stronger than she ever knew possible. The door rattled violently, as if it were an animal trying to escape a cage. Lucy felt a surge of instinctual fear. It clawed at her throat, making her heart race wildly. The beggar's eyes were fixed on the door, and she could see the tension coursing through him. "Stay quiet," he whispered, his face almost ghostly in the dim light. Lucy nodded but couldn't shake the feeling of vulnerability pressing down on her like a heavy weight. The footsteps grew nearer, rhythmic and purposeful. They stopped, and she held her breath, praying the intruders wouldn't hear the frantic beat of her heart against her ribcage. The beggar moved closer, a protective barrier between her and the uncertain world outside. "Trust me, Lucy," he said softly, drawing her attention again. "What's coming now, it's not just about you. It's much larger than you think." She opened her mouth to question what he meant, but just then, a figure stretched in front of the door, shadowed and imposing. The door creaked open. "Is anyone in here?" The voice was cold, cutting through the tension like a knife. A man stepped inside, flanked by two others. They were suited, polished, and exuded an aura of power that made Lucy feel small. "Thought we might find you hiding, old man," the leader said, his eyes narrowing at the beggar. "Leave us be, Carter," the beggar shot back, his voice steady despite the threat hanging in the air. "You're not going to get what you're looking for." Lucy's heart sank as confusion enveloped her. Who was Carter, and what did he want with the beggar? "Don't play coy with me," Carter sneered, stepping further into the room. "You know exactly what we're after, and now it's your turn to pay for your silence." "Silence?" The beggar laughed, but it was a hollow sound. "You think I'm afraid of you? You don't even understand what's at stake." Carter's henchmen flanked him, their expressions twisted in mirthless amusement. "We're not here to play games," one said, cracking his knuckles. "You either give us the information or we take it." Feeling trapped, panic surged within Lucy. She took a small step toward the beggar, intent on urging him to reveal what he knew. But he raised a hand to stop her, a pointed look telling her to stay back. "Lucy, you hold the key to this mess, and they need you to keep their empire standing," he said, urgency threading through his voice. "You are their weak link. At his words, Lucy's mind raced. She felt almost exposed, like her hidden past was laid bare. "What do you mean?" she whispered, but the beggar shook his head. "Don't show them fear," he warned. "They feed off of it." Carter leaned closer, curious now. "What's happening here?" He regarded Lucy with a mixture of contempt and intrigue. "What do you know, girl?" She clenched her fists at her sides, her voice rising above the fear pressing in. "I don't know anything. Just let us go." "Oh, but you do, sweetheart," Carter replied with a cold grin. "You're tangled in this nightmare whether you like it or not." Panic surged again, tight and real. Each second stretched painfully, the atmosphere charged with tension. Lucy the beggar started, but he was cut off as the sound of sirens echoed nearby. The police were closing in again. "Time's up." Carter smiled, a twisted gleam in his eye as he turned to his men. "Bring her. We can settle matters somewhere a bit quieter." In a flash, panic caught up with her. They were so close, yet she felt miles away from escape. The urge to run surged back, but the beggaress' hold on her seemed too strong. "Lucy, find the truth, you have to. Stay strong," he shouted, desperation coloring his voice. Suddenly, the beggar lunged, throwing himself at Carter, a surprising burst of energy. The moment hung in the air, a single spark igniting chaos. Lucy froze, heart pounding. What was she supposed to do? What had she gotten herself into? And just when she thought it couldn't escalate further, a shrill scream sliced through the chaos as one of the henchmen fell to the floor, clutching his side. "What the hell?" Carter shouted, looking around, bewildered. Lucy's breath caught in her throat as she peered around the room, her heart racing anew. The door was ajar, a dark figure beyond it emerging into the dim light. Who was that? Could they be a friend or a foe? All she knew is that with silence breaking, the real game was about to begin. The figure stepped into the room, moving with a fluid grace that belied the tension filling the air. Lucy squinted, trying to make sense of the pitch-black silhouette that loomed just beyond the threshold. As light seeped in from the outside, it revealed a striking woman dressed in all black, her fierce gaze fixed on the unfolding chaos. "Stop right there," the stranger commanded, her voice steady but laced with authority. It sent shivers down Lucy's spine. Carter's expression twisted from surprise to irritation. "Who the hell are you?" He took a step back, clearly assessing the new entrant as a potential threat. The woman didn't flinch. "Someone looking for answers," she replied, her eyes darting between Carter and the beggar. "And I have no patience for games." The moment hung suspended in the air, tension thickening as they stared each other down. Lucy seized the opportunity to scan the room. Adrenaline pulsed through her veins, a desperate urge for clarity amidst the chaos. Who was this woman? And why did she seem so unfazed? "Lucy, run." The beggar's voice broke her focus, drawing her back to the immediacy of danger. Carter's henchman, recovering from the shock of being shot, stumbled to his feet, rage fueling his movements. But instead of reacting to the beggar's warning, the stranger stepped forward, eyes locked on the first henchman. "I'll handle them," she said coolly, and before Lucy could process her words, the woman drew something sleek and glinting from her waist. A knife, perhaps. Lucy's heart raced as the scene shifted. The henchman lunged at the woman, a growl escaping his lips, and in the blink of an eye, their movements became a blur of fists and combat. The sound of flesh hitting flesh echoed, filling the cramped space. This was more than Lucy had bargained for. Her mind swirled, was this woman an ally or another player in this twisted game? The chaos swirled around her, threatening to engulf her in its jagged jaws. "Focus, Lucy." The beggar's voice broke through her haze. "They need you, trust me." With panic threatening to pull her under, Lucy's instincts kicked in. She had to locate and escape. But where? Just then, her gaze landed on the door, now slightly ajar. Could she slip through without drawing attention? Carter barked orders, his voice chilling. "Grab her. Don't let her escape." But the chaos created a shield for her. The woman who fought valiantly against Carter's man had become the focal point of their ire, Lucy's legs moved almost on their own accord. Without thinking, she began to inch towards the door, crawling on instinct, her heart pounding like a drum in her ears. The sweat on her brow felt cold, and her throat was tight with fear. "Lucy, stop!" The beggar's voice rang out, a plea laced with urgency that only made her heart pound louder. As she reached the edge of the doorway, the unthinkable happened. The woman fell, narrowly evading the henchman's next assault, and the knife flew from her hand, skidding towards Lucy. It was a lethal invitation, sparkling under the dim light. In that moment, Lucy hesitated. Could she? Should she? The line between right and wrong blurred in the chaos, her hands trembling at the prospect of wielding power for the first time. "Take the knife, Lucy," the beggar shouted, and there was something in his voice, a mix of hope and desperation. Time slowed as she made her choice, heart racing. She bent down to grab the knife, but just as her fingers touched the handle, the door swung wide open, and a new wave of figures stormed in. In uniform, flashing badges. Police. Lucy's world flipped again. Confusion mixed with horror. The fight had just escalated, and she was standing right at the heart of it, caught between choices she never wanted to make. Where did her loyalties lie? Would she choose to run, fight, or maybe join the woman who had entered the fray? The room stewed with tension, uncertainty slamming down like a curtain closing. The police lights strobed against the cracked walls, amplifying the confusion. "Lucy, choose," echoed in her mind as the line was drawn tighter around her. What choice would she make as forces of authority clashed with chaos? Would anyone emerge as a savior, or would she be forced to decide between good and evil for her own survival? The moment hung heavy around them, and somewhere in that turmoil, truths waited to be discovered. The police surged into the room, their shouts mingling with the chaos of battle. Lucy felt the world constrict around her as she stood frozen by the door, knife poised in her trembling hand. She could barely process the sight unfolding before her. The black-clad woman was still desperately fending off the henchmen, every move a dance of life and death. On the ground, now, one of the officers barked, his voice cutting through the frenzy. The second henchman, barely holding on to consciousness, stumbled backwards. The momentary reprieve brought a glimmer of clarity to Lucy's racing mind. "Lucy, now!" The beggar's voice rang out again, harsh yet urgent. Did he just call her name? She forced herself to look back at him, eyes wide in disbelief. He was pushing himself up, wincing through the pain. "Get out of here. You have a chance." His words ignited a whirlwind of indecision within her. The police were here, but weren't they just more characters in this twisted theater? Carter glared at the cops, his face a mask of outrage. "What the hell are you doing? This is none of your business." His demand felt hollow, desperate, power slipping through his fingers. But the officer with a commanding stance took a step forward. "I said, get on the ground." The black-clad woman, still grappling with the henchman, barely turned her head, eyes darting toward Lucy. "Get to safety." Something deep within Lucy surged. The weapon in her hand felt heavy, but it was also full of potential she had to embrace. Panic and purpose collided in a wild rush. She transformed the doubt into action, muscle memory taking over as she sidestepped, maneuvering through the chaos. "Lucy!" the beggar shouted again, but she was already moving past him, breaking through the haze of chaos toward the officer who commanded the room. "Officer! Officer!" she hollered, desperate for clarity amid the whirlwind. Her voice broke through the din, and the officer's eyes narrowed, pressing further into the scene as he registered her presence. The woman thrust the henchman back, blood painting the floor as the man lost his footing, crashing to the ground. "Stay back," the officer warned, pulling out his gun, a stark contrast against the chaos. Her pulse hammered in her ears as Lucy arrived beside the officer, the knife still clutched tightly in her grasp. "Carter is involved in something illegal. These men, they're dangerous," she shouted, willing her voice to hold them steady. His gaze flickered between Lucy and the scene, weighing her words. "Get everyone on the ground." The officer barked again, and, in response, his partners moved to corral Carter and the remaining henchman, who, despite the called shots, was already scrambling backward towards safety. In the ensuing chaos, Lucy glanced over her shoulder at the black-clad woman, who was catching her breath. A weary smile broke across her face, brief but reassuring. "Trust me," the woman breathed, her eyes bright with fierce determination. Lucy swallowed hard, her heart weighing heavy with suspicion and hope. The two strangers, an officer and a mysterious woman, offered her two radically different paths. The open doorway loomed behind her, a reminder of freedom yet met with the weight of uncertainty. "Lucy, please." The beggar's voice was raw, filled with something deeper than fear for her life or for what she might lose. But before she could react, Carter, bruised yet unfazed, delivered a mocking laugh. "You think they can protect you? You'll never know the truth. Justice? It doesn't exist here." The room erupted like a powder keg, tension reaching a breaking point. The officers surged forward, shouting, hands gripping weapons tighter, and Lucy felt the ground shift under her reality. Would she choose to follow the line of authority, or would she leap into the unknown alongside the enigmatic woman and the cryptic beggar? A gunshot rang out, piercing the thick atmosphere, and silence crashed against walls lined with chaos. Lucy's breath caught in her throat, and all eyes shot to the source as unyielding questions began to echo in her mind. What lay beyond the chaos? And who among them truly held the power over truth and lies? The night was pregnant with uncertainty, and in its stifling grip, Lucy fully understood she would have to choose. But she didn't know if time was still on her side. As she stood on that precipice, a thought whispered through her haze. What if the truth was far more dangerous than she could ever fathom? Everything shifted in slow motion. The gunshot cracked like thunder, echoing through the chaos. Lucy's heart raced as her gaze shot to the officer, eyes wide with disbelief. The officer's expression morphed from determination to horror as he stared at the fallen body of the second henchman. Blood pooled beneath him, a dark, glistening confirmation of the violence that engulfed them all. "Get on the ground," the officer shouted again, but his voice wavered. The tension in the room grew thick enough to slice through. "Lucy, now, just go." The beggar's voice broke through the rest. His face twisted in agony, but there was urgency and edge of fear that pulled at her insides. "Please," she pleaded back, torn between the desire to escape and the growing dread that loomed over them. The black-clad woman dove toward Carter, who, with wild eyes, lunged for the officer's weapon. The chaos swirled above Lucy like a storm, an unpredictable whirlwind threatening to consume her whole. Her instincts screamed to run, but she hesitated, frozen by the gravity of the moment. Carter's fingers grazed the weapon just as the officer swung him to the ground, a loud thud resonating in the small room. "Stay down." A surge of fear hit Lucy like a freight train. Could they really contain the storm this man had unleashed? She glanced back at the beggar, just as he slipped painfully to the floor, a rushed movement that shifted her focus. "Lucy," the woman's voice cut through again, fierce and commanding. The black-clad fighter twisted back to face Lucy. "We need to leave now." Before Lucy could respond, Carter managed a smirk, still pinned against the floor. "You're running away from the truth, sweetheart. They can't save you. Shut him up," another officer yelled, as chaos erupted again. The urgency in the room grew palpable, like a live wire ready to snap. Then, in a swift motion, the black-clad woman grabbed Lucy's arm, her grip surprisingly steady. "Trust me," she urged, and there was something in her eyes that broke through Lucy's uncertainty, a glimmer of unyielding resolve. But before they could bolt, a second gunshot rang out, striking the wall beside them. Dust fell from the ceiling. The room seemed to hold its breath. A terrifying silence followed, and despair dripped from Carter's twisted smile. "You think you can just walk away? You have no idea." He let out a low laugh, laced with sadistic pleasure, as he turned his attention back to the officers, creating a diversion that left Lucy feeling even more trapped. "Lucy," the beggar's voice rose, desperate. "You need to make your choice. Now." Her head spun, The officers were overwhelmed, their backs turning to secure the henchmen, while scattered cries ignited the room. A woman screamed from the corner, clutching her child, and Lucy felt her chest tighten. The adrenaline coursed through her veins, a tangible pulse of survival drowning out her indecision. Choose or get trapped in someone else's hell, the beggar shouted, each word striking like a dagger. Lucy's instincts screamed for action. She looked toward the door, toward the life beyond. And then she looked back at the enigmatic woman, who simply nodded as if they shared an unspoken bond. A potent mix of fear and resolve burst within Lucy. She took a step forward, toward the black-clad woman, knowing full well that the path she was about to tread would be fraught with danger and uncertainty. And as she made her choice, she felt the ground shift beneath her once more, a realignment of destiny. Would she escape the tightening grip of chaos? Or was she only stepping further into a trap of unknown horrors? With bated breath, she pushed into the fray, unsure if she would emerge from the night or be swallowed whole before dawn broke. What secrets lay waiting in the shadows? And would Lucy uncover them before it was too late? Lucy moved through the chaos, adrenaline pounding in her ears like war drums. The black-clad woman tugged her forward, navigating through the sea of confusion and panic. Shattered glass crunched beneath their feet, punctuated by frantic screams and the sharp crack of additional gunfire. Keep going, the woman yelled, urgency cutting through the madness. Lucy's heart raced not just from fear but from a newfound determination. She knew she couldn't turn back now. They dodged an officer who was struggling with Carter, who writhed like a trapped animal on the floor. His voice, sharp and taunting, echoed behind her. Run all you want, Lucy. You're still in over your head. The officer yelled for backup, his focus split between managing Carter and assessing the spread of chaos. In that moment, Lucy caught a glimpse of a door not far ahead. Almost there, the woman urged, her grip tightening on Lucy's arm. Just then, a loud crash sent another wave of terror through the room. An officer was thrown aside, tumbling against a wall. The black-clad woman faltered for just a second, glancing back with fierce determination etched across her face. Lucy, don't look back. You have to trust me. With a shallow breath, Lucy pushed her fear aside. They barreled toward the exit. It was so close, yet the distance felt like an eternity. Shouts of frustration erupted behind them as officers struggled to maintain control. Keep going, the woman shouted again, urging Lucy forward. The door loomed in front of them, and in a surge of adrenaline, Lucy shoved it open. Cold air hit her face like a splash of water, welcome relief but laced with danger. They stumbled into the alley just outside, the sounds of the world outside wrapping around them like a tangible reality. But there was no time to breathe. They had to keep moving. The woman pulled Lucy along, guiding her deeper into the darkened streets. Shadows danced under dim streetlights, flickering like ghosts of their past. Where are we going? Lucy gasped, looking up at her companion, who was now scanning the area with sharp eyes. Somewhere they can't find us. The woman's voice was calm, but Lucy could sense the undercurrent of fear, too. She was just as aware of the danger as Lucy. They turned a corner into a narrow alley, the air thick with tension. Each footstep echoed, bouncing off the brick walls as they hurried away from the chaos behind them. Lucy's lungs burned, and her legs screamed for a break, but the thought of Carter's men catching up pushed her forward. Why are they after me? Lucy panted, her heart racing with a mix of fear and confusion. It's complicated. The black-clad woman's eyes flickered, revealing a hint of something deeper, a truth she was cautious to share. But you're not just a waitress anymore. You've gotten tangled in something much bigger. Bigger than what? Before the woman could respond, a loud shout resonated behind them. Someone had spotted them. The hunt was back on. Run, she commanded, and they sprinted down the alley, the shouts growing nearer. Lucy's mind spun. There had to be more to this story, her ordinary life suddenly thrust into perilous darkness. Just as they approached another intersection, the night transformed. A sleek black car skidded to a halt in front of them, the door flung wide open. Get in, a voice shouted, a man with sharp features and wild urgency. Lucy hesitated, confusion swirling in her mind. Was this a rescue or another trap? But she saw the determination in the black-clad woman's eyes. This is our chance. The sound of footsteps echoed closer, desperation pushing Lucy. With one last look behind her, she dove into the car, heart racing. The door slammed shut, shrouding them in an instant cocoon of mystery. The man behind the wheel shot them a glance. "Hold on tight," he exclaimed before he thrust the car into motion. Tires screeching against the asphalt as they sped away, the world outside blurred. Lucy felt a wild mix of exhilaration and terror. What was happening? Who were these people? And then it struck her a chilling thought. This wasn't just about survival. This was the beginning of a revelation that would unearth secrets she never expected. What could they possibly know about her that she didn't? And would she find the answers before it was too late? The car lurched forward, whipping around corners as the city blurred past them in streaks of color and chaos. Lucy clutched the seat, eyes wide. The driver, a man with disheveled hair and an intensity that pierced through the confusion, shot looks back at them, assessing the urgency of their escape. "You've got to trust us," he said, his voice steady despite the storm of panic raging around them. "We're your best shot." The black-clad woman leaned closer to Lucy, urgency dancing in her gaze. "They want you for a reason. It's all connected, and time is running out." Lucy nodded, breathless, still digesting everything that had spiraled out of control in mere hours. "Connected how?" Lucy blurted, frustration bubbling. "What do you mean? I know it's a lot to take in. Your life has more significance than you've realized. They see you as a pawn, a key to unlock a world they think you're oblivious to." The woman's tone softened, sincerity breaking through the tension. "But now you have a choice. We can expose them or become part of their game." "Expose who?" Lucy pressed, her chest tightening with a mix of hope and fear. The driver glanced back, his expression serious. "Carter and those he works for. He's just a piece of a much larger puzzle, one built on greed and manipulation." Lucy's thoughts raced, memories of her past rushing back as she felt the weight of their encrypted meaning. Her father's struggles, her family's hidden history, it all started to connect the dots. "My family," she whispered, pain stitching through her heart. "It's all linked, Lucy. Your past shapes your present. But now you have power in your hands," the woman encouraged. The car screeched to a halt in front of an unmarked building larger than life, an old warehouse that loomed like a fortress against the gloomy sky. "This is where your choice starts," the driver announced, turning off the engine. Upon stepping out, Lucy's heart raced as they entered the building. Dim light filtered through cracked windows, revealing a space laden with stale air and endless possibilities. Here, beneath flickering fluorescent bulbs, truths awaited her with bated breath. "What now?" Lucy asked, voice trembling. "We prepare," the woman replied, determination etched in her brow. "We gather evidence, build a case to unveil Carter and his criminal empire, not just for you, but for those who suffer under their tyranny." "Are you ready?" the man asked, heading toward a cluster of screens displaying tangled webs of data and faces. "This is your chance to take back control." Lucy's pulse quickened as her resolve solidified. "I'm ready," she affirmed, the fire igniting within her. Hours passed in a whirlwind of information and collaboration. Lucy discovered layers of deception woven through the city like a tapestry, and each thread pulled at her heart. She found herself piecing together her own past alongside the beggar's strange secrets and the black-clad woman's fierce determination. Then came the moment, a tangible shift in power. "We hold the cards now," she declared, feeling empowered as she entered the final stretch of planning. But just as the pieces fell into place, the door burst open, and in walked the beggar. "What are you doing here?" Lucy exclaimed, pulse spiking. "I had to see it for myself," he said, urgency lacing through his voice. "You're closer to the truth than you know, but you have to be careful. They won't let you take them down without a fight." Lucy's heart raced as realization washed over her. The stakes were escalating, and she was already in too deep to back out now. I will expose them, she vowed, voice fierce. The woman placed a hand on her shoulder, a sign of solidarity. Together, she agreed. Suddenly, a crack of thunder rumbled outside, a storm ready to unleash its fury. It mirrored the brewing storm within Lucy, the knowledge that they were on the verge of a fight that could shake their entire world. As night descended, blanketing the city in darkness, they consolidated their efforts, ready to strike at the heart of the corruption lurking beneath the neon lights. Lucy felt a mix of trepidation and excitement, knowing that together, they would face the unknown head-on. This is just the start, the beggar murmured, lingering at the threshold. You've awakened a force that can shake foundations. Just remember, the truth is both a weapon and a shield. Use it wisely. Lucy nodded, her heart pounding in sync with the mission ahead. Gone were the days of simply surviving. She was stepping into her own power, embracing the fight for truth and justice. As the team prepared for their next move, Lucy reflected on how far she had come. It was no longer a life chained to the mundane. She had the thrill of possibility before her, igniting flames where shadows once dwelled. With steely determination, they ventured into the night, ready to reclaim what had been hidden for too long, reshaping their destiny. And as they kicked up for battle, Lucy whispered a vow into the wind. I will uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Darkness may have cast a shadow over their lives, but united they would face the storm, determined to find the light. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Your support means the world. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this mind-blowing ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.